Peace family, it's Ashante. I haven't been on the channel in a while, but I was going through some things. As they say, life be lifing. But I wanted to come back, and because it's the holiday season is over, people are back at work. It's a stressful time for many black women who are in toxic jobs. A lot of black women have been fired, terminated, forced out of the workplace. And this is a shaky time for a lot of people. And so many black women are talking about, losing their jobs. Just not a really good time. But in all of the uneasiness of the world, I want you to make sure that you are staying regulated. I want to talk about self-silencing and what it does to the body. A lot of times when we're in jobs, and no matter what job you may be in academia, you may be working in corporate, nonprofit, working for the city, but there's times when you have to not speak because you don't want to lose your job, right? Or you don't want to be fired. You don't want to lose your job. You don't want to be written up. But it's very detrimental to the body. And I found myself, as I started to reflect on my career in corporate America, which has been over 3 decades long, there were so many times that I had to self-silence. And that was only hurting me. That was hurting my nervous system. And it was making my body stay in constant fight or flight. And it wasn't until I started to do breath work that I started to realize I had all of these pent up emotions. And then that would cause me to lash out on my family members or people that I love. And I had to dig deep to say, why am I feeling this way? And self-silencing makes you resent the person. It makes you even resent yourself because you say, well, why didn't I speak up? Why was I afraid? But what I've learned in the last couple of months is that if you don't release the pent-up aggressions, the anger, the sadness, it's all living in your body. And eventually it will cause dis-ease. And I'm only speaking for myself because I know this has happened to me. I want to go through some emotions that may occur when you're self-silencing. You may feel guilt, you may feel anger, you may feel resentment. But the first thing you have to do above anything else is just forgive yourself. That's number one. Forgive yourself for thinking that you were less than, or you were afraid, or because you didn't want to lose your job, you didn't say anything. Forgive yourself. That would be the first thing I would offer. After you forgive yourself, you have to get these emotions out one way or the other. I recently visited a rage room, and then I held a micro rage retreat with some women that I know and love. And we were able, and I think I made another video about this, but we were able to actually get the anger out of our bodies with movement and with sound and having witnesses. So pain, anger, they need witnesses so it can feel like you're actually getting it out. And it was such a great experience. Like I said, I would recommend that to anybody. You go and you hit things and you get to yell and scream. And when do black women get to express their anger safely? A rage retreat or rage room is a place where you could express your anger in a safe space without being labeled. Because anytime we say something, you already know we get those labels. And I'm talking from experience. I've got the label, she's hard to communicate with, she's combative, she's defensive, all of these things. That if another race said it, like I said before, she's a go-getter, but I'm aggressive, I'm short. These things, but the rage room gave a place to get some of that anger out. And I want to actually add to the rage room, we did breath work before and after. So it's important that you make sure that you are regulating yourself. It's important if you go to the rage room, you have to sign a waiver. If someone who gets seizures, I wouldn't recommend that they go to a rage room because you don't know what it would trigger. So you have to make sure that you are physically okay before you do that. That's the disclaimer. Talk it over with your doctors, but like I said, you do have to sign a release. But it was something that helped me tremendously. And it took away the heaviness that I felt from the self-silencing. The forgiving myself took away the guilt that I felt for not speaking up for myself. But what I've learned through all of these years is that you can speak up for yourself. You don't have to be disrespectful. You don't have to give them the same energy, but you can just speak in a normal tone. Hey, I really don't like what you said to me the other day, and I think we need to revisit it. Simple as that. Go to your HR department if you're having trouble with work bullying or mean girls at your job. You do have a choice, but don't swallow it and just live with it, because then you're going to inflict that on yourself. So the most important thing I would say is, number one, is forgive yourself. If you were ever doubting yourself or being hard on yourself because you didn't speak up in the moment. But I would recommend highly just the breath work. You'll be amazed at how much 5 minutes of conscious breathing will do for you. Black women have received that false narrative, angry black woman. I want to tell you, that's a myth. It's a myth. Every single race of women get angry. I don't know anybody who doesn't get angry. If you see an injustice, something is done to you that's horrible, you're going to get angry. So to label black women as angry and us is a myth. And I am here to bust that myth. I am here to let you know that anger is information. Anger is a normal, healthy emotion. But anger also needs an arc. Anger needs a container. Anger needs ways to move it through the body and out of the body. One of the things that I do now is I try to put my anger in a container. If something made me mad, I'll decide when I'm going to, instead of ruminating on it all day, I'll give myself some time. I'll be like, what happened to me wasn't really right, and I'm really upset about that. And I'm going to give my anger a container. So that means maybe 2-3 hours or whatever, I'm going to rant, rave, do whatever I have to do. I'm going to journal, and I'm going to let it out. I'm going to say what I need to say to the person, but I'm going to give myself that container and that period, and then I'm going to come out of it. And then, maybe I'll revisit it. Maybe I have to revisit it every day at a certain time for a couple of hours until I eventually am not angry anymore. Because like I said, anger needs an arc. So one of the things for anger is the rage room is great. Breath work is great. Talk therapy, walking, somatically, anything. When I talk about somatic breath work, that is what I'm saying. It's what's living in here from, it could be years of abuse, or living in this country that we live in, having to deal with oppression, racial discrimination, sexism. All of that lives in our bodies. And some of Resmaa Menakem's work, somatic abolition, is saying that these things live in a body, and we have to work we have to be conscious enough to get it out. By giving my anger a container, I could say, hey, this happened, and I'm going to give myself a period of time to process it. But then I'm not going to spend all day on it. After I had that 2 hours, that hour, then I'm going to leave it alone, and I'm going to go on with my day. And then maybe tomorrow I'm going to open up that container until I feel that it's moved out of my system. And then once it moved out, I'm going to put a lid on that container, and I'm going to sit it on a shelf. And if that involves, like I said, saying what you need to say it. And because I've done it. I mean, I've actually said to people, like, why are you talking to me like that? Why are you so aggressive? In the workplace, you have to say things a certain way. But the important thing is to say it. Don't self-silence. Don't swallow your words. Say what you need to say. I'm going to do some breath work videos that I have coming back. My shorts, I'm going to work with things that you can do before you open your emails, if you have a meeting, if you've been involved in any type of performance improvement plans. Those can be very, very stressful on the body. So there are things that you can do in the moment to make sure that you are regulating yourself, because you don't want to respond in a way that will hurt you, or that would hurt maybe the outcome, but because you lashed out, you won't get that outcome. So think of the long game. Remember, the pen is always mightier than the sword, and those can be things that you take with you. But just to bring back full circle what I said, self-silencing is not an option. Your health depends on it. Try the various different modalities that I spoke about. Look up a rage room. Archery is also a great way to let these emotions out. Writing, journaling. If you have a therapist, speak to your therapist. Do more than one thing, because healing is not linear. Healing is multifaceted, and we are responsible for our own healing. So once again, it's Ashante saying thank you for listening. I'm happy to be back. I'm sorry that I took so long, but like I said, this thing called life be lifing. So I have some great some shorts coming for you this week and next week on in the moment regulation practices. Please like, please subscribe, come back and see me sometime, and share my work. Thank you so much for listening, and have a great day.